And here we are to start the penultimate day of MSI 2021. I'm Medic, he's Vedi, and we are here for the first 3 games of the day. And what a day it is likely to be. Very possible by the end of today, we know exactly who is locked into those top 4 spots.
It's going to be a banger of a day.
Yeah.
Only bangers in the Rumble stages, especially as the stakes continue to mount. If you have seen the LoL Esports Stats Twitter, you'll know that they have a bunch of percentage of scenarios in which teams make it. And for teams like RNG and Damwon, their position is very close to being locked in. And the team that's right behind them is PSG, thanks to their big win against RNG yesterday, and also taking down their rivals in Mad Lions. So they've been on an upward swing. It feels like that as the tournament has gone on, they've only continued to get better and better. You can hear the players talking about how confident they are. And against RNG, I'm expecting some great stuff from them. Last time they attacked the bot lane. Let's see if they do the same thing in the rematch.
And I think that was a surprising strategy, considering Doggo is a sub for this team. He has not played with the team coming into MSI. He joined them, of course, because Unified had to take some time out for medical reasons, and he has really begun to step up here for PSG. PSG now on the blue side will get rid of the Lucian. RNG going to remove Udyr from the pool.
Doggo is a very aggressive AD carry player, and I think that we're really starting to see PSG leverage that, and I do hope that they continue to play towards him. You already highlighted that some of these big bans have come through. The Udyr I like being taken off the board as well. I think that right now, even after all the nerfs that have happened, he still reigns supreme in the jungle. Varus, pretty much permaban throughout this tournament. We have yet to really see it come out in the bot lane. Varus clearly offering a lot to many teams. Jungle is continuing to be. It looks like that they're really trying to limit what River can offer, and RNG is saying, well, we trust Wei's champion pool, but how deep can you go in this rematch, River?
I think there's also a kind of a gauntlet being thrown down to River saying, hey, you're going to play that Rumble, you're going to bring that out, because last time it was Wei on the Rumble, River on the Morgana. Of course, River has already played it a couple of times this tournament. He's got a 66% win rate over 3 games, and with it being left up, I wonder if PSG will look for that first pick, or whether it will be something like the Lee Sin.
Exactly that, Medic. Lee versus Rumble is the big debate right now for many teams, and I feel like Lee is the better choice. We did see Hanabi lock that one in yesterday. He had a pretty solid performance on it, but it wasn't very high priority. That actually made it all the way around into the second phase of picks and bans for both these teams, and it looks like that it will actually be the Rumble for PSG. When we look at the number of junglers that are available, Rumble is the go-to.
Yeah.
But I guess the exchange that RNG is saying, well, we're going to get ourselves a very powerful bot lane. This has been the bot lane of the tournament, Kai'Sa plus Nautilus. And yesterday, RNG was able, well, PSG rather, was able to break it apart. When RNG tried to lock in the Kai'Sa, PSG responded with a Nautilus and split apart that 2v2. Now RNG have got their hands back on this duo, but PSG showcased that they're happy to play into this with their Xayah and Leona that they ran into the Mad Lions. They were getting 2v2 kills against that bot lane yesterday, so I feel like that they're more than comfortable playing into this, and again, this just goes to show the growth and development that this team has, figuring out how to integrate Doggo into the roster, leveraging the champion pool and the playstyle that he wants to go for. And I think that it's going to work out very nicely as they once again go for the Xayah Leona that they found so much success with yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, Doggo ended 13-1-5 with this matchup. And here, once again, he'll lock it in. Of course, GALA and Ming, perhaps less explosive at times than Kazi and Kai'Sa in the bottom lane, or less susceptible to constant death. We saw Kai'Sa having a struggle on the Nautilus in the matchup yesterday. There is the Lee Sin immediately locked in here for RNG, so they get their hands on the Premier bottom lane and the Premier top laner, or even the Premier mid laner in the form of that Lee. However, we have already seen some of those AP junglers fall by the wayside, and so I wonder where Wei will go with this jungle pick in the second phase.
I think PSG should consider banning things like the Olaf out to remove that from the pool, as we know that that's usually the next go-to jungle pick. Thinking about potentially things like the Volibear. Oh, well, there we are. Volibear also being removed off the board as well. So a lot of respect being shown to these other potential chem tank junglers. Don't think we're going to see anything like a Hecarim, but now like you're really digging deep into the jungle champion pool, because when you think of the jungle meta, it's been very limited, I would say. We haven't really seen a huge amount of depth. It's usually those same repetition of champions of the Rumble, the Olaf, the Volley, the Morgana, the Udyr. and then that's kind of it.
Yep.
So yeah, let's see what Wei has left in his pool and what he's willing to bring out. Meanwhile, they've just been focused on banning out rough matchups for the Lee Sin up in the top side. Both the Set and the Nocturne taken off the board. You could still go for something a little bit more weak side, like the Gnar, but I think that many Lee Sin players are actually quite happy to play into that matchup. So we'll see if they even want to try and get a counter pick up top side, or if instead they're going to focus on getting a solid matchup in the mid lane.
The question really now is, as you say, what will Wei play in the jungle? So far at MSI, he has played all of those junglers you lifted off. The Rumble, the Morgana, the Udyr, the Volibear, and the Olaf. And he is going to go to his second most picked in Season 11, the Lillia. She has fallen out of favor a little bit, but she is still that AP threat from the jungle that we were talking about.
Yeah, Lillia doesn't really ever receive patch changes. She just kind of fades in or fades out depending on what's happening around her.
Prances out.
Exactly that. And now, with so many other junglers taken off the board, it seems that RNG is saying, well, we know we can play this champion. We know that it's still very strong, a very fast clear speed, offers a lot of utility, very well-rounded as a jungler. And crucially, well, I would say doesn't offer the same ganking prowess, which I think is one of Wei's strongest assets as a jungler. A little bit more focused on going for those fast clears, trying to get into the enemy's face, stealing away those enemy jungle camps. But we'll see how Wei leverages this champion. As you rightly said, he is very comfortable on it as PSG now look to round out their draft.
With the Jayce, it looks like they're going to lock in the Zoe for Maple as well. So a strong poke composition coming out from PSG. The long-range equalizer, the paddle star, the accelerated shock blast from the Jayce can really chip away at RNG. PSG, if they get ahead, it'll be very difficult to face into.
Wow, well, if the Twisted Fate is locked in, which it's going to be, this is setting us up for quite a early game brawl between the two teams. You know, a lot of engage coming from the supports, roaming mid laners that are going to be fighting for priority, getting off onto these side lanes. Top lane, a very volatile lane. Whenever you run a Jayce, you want to try and get that Jayce ahead so that he can offer value in a side lane, scale up to be that threat in the 1v1, but for those that may remember, Fudge on his Lee Sin earlier in the tournament was able to solo kill out an enemy Jayce just because of how prevalent that Lee Sin can be in a side lane as well.
Importantly, he did fall behind in the laning phase, and that's what we have to look for in the top lane. Can Hanabi put Xiaohu behind in this top lane? Can he get those extra plates? Can he get that extra gold and then start brawling with the rest of his team? Because if PSG are able to get an early lead, they can really take the game to RNG. But of course, RNG have that global map threat of a Twisted Fate that is always something you have to be cautious around.
What I love about both these teams is that they're kind of moving away from like the scaling team fight meta comp that we've been seeing from a lot of teams. It's much more about just getting into your face, wanting to use early priority to set up plays, look for ganks in a side lane, try and steal away camps and just go for these skirmishes. And I think that what both these teams do very well is once they get an early lead, they control the game extremely well. That was how PSG was able to beat RNG yesterday, and they're going to be looking to do the same thing again. But RNG want to try and match them in the early game. They want to go toe-to-toe. So I'm expecting a bit more of a brawl this time around,
I'm hoping
Medic.
for one. So I'm hoping for one, Vedi. Both these teams have shown us how explosive they can be. Of course, RNG coming out of the LPL were one of the slower teams over in what is traditionally a very skirmish-heavy region. PSG showed us yesterday, especially with their game versus Mad Lions and especially with their game versus RNG, that if they get ahead, if they manage to win out on a few of these early fights, they can really take the game by the scruff of the neck.
They certainly can. So let's have a look as we jump onto the rift. You can see the MSI trophy. One of these teams' logos will be represented there. I say one of these teams, potentially if they win.
One of the 6 teams in the tournament.
That's what I meant. No spoilers, I promise. No spoilers.
Look, we got the script last night, Vedius. You can't give it away already.
Yeah, ignore that comment. Cut it out. Cut the clip. Cut the clip. Let's have a look at some of the runes. Nothing too crazy from what I can see on the side of RNG. And meanwhile, on the other side for PSG, also looking similar. We do have the Dark Harvest on River.
Interesting.
There's been a bit of debate around that rune choice because pros are basically saying you don't get enough stacks in pro play compared to solo queue where you can get those stacks up. So instead you go for the Predator to get that more guaranteed damage. I will also say that there's a lot of value in Merc treads for the side of PSG when you look at the double AP mid-jungle, and also when playing up against the Nautilus, having that early magic resistance is very valuable, but on the side of PSG, not that many people actually want to buy it. they much prefer the Ionian boots, so we'll see how much value they actually gain from that. And it's actually something we've been seeing a lot more recently, where full AD comps can get away with it because sometimes the enemy AD just doesn't want to itemize full armor. So we'll see as time goes on what the itemization ends up being. For the time being, it looks like the pathing is pretty standard, as Rumble will actually do red into Raptors rather than red into Krugs. And looks like he's actually just going to skip those entirely. Okay, so this may suggest that he's looking for top early Krugs. Maybe wants to get to the top side of the map a little bit faster as well, so that he can look to try and assist Hanabi in any early plays.
Importantly, there was a ward on River's Razorbeaks. He went for the Oracles to sweep that out, so his pathing is known by RNG. They'll know exactly where he is on the map right now. I don't think either of the bot lanes gave too much of a leash, so both of them were able to match up here in the bottom lane at the same time. GALA already level 2 will force Kaiwing and Doggo back underneath their tower, and this is just smart play. Like, you don't need to push forward. Your minions are dying slowly, but not so quickly that you cannot step in and get the XP or even get the auto attack in for that little bit of gold.
So what's interesting here is, obviously GALA and Ming are able to have that early priority, especially with the early level 2 that GALA was able to get. Hook just barely missing there. Nice attempt from Ming. So they're setting up the slow push on the bot side of that. Meanwhile, Xiaohu is actually setting up a fast push top to try and get the wave to bounce back into him. Actually, he's just going to force another wave immediately so that he can actually move into the bot river and potentially contest the Scuttle Crab, knowing that Wei is pathing up towards the top side, and they can actually secure this objective, which means the river now going to path back towards bot, and he's going to secure himself a Scuttle. So really good awareness there from River. We saw this yesterday in his game versus Mad Lions, where he was just very smart with his pathing and how he was able to keep Eldjoya down. And in this situation, he realizes, oh, okay, my top laner does not have push, but the problem is his bot lane also doesn't have push. So there is the risk of GALA and Ming collapsing on him. So what he now needs is Maple to push in that wave. He needs Kaiwing to be in a position where he can rotate up. But it looks like that he's going to be safe for the time being, as the bot lane is able to get level 3. They will be able to secure the Scuttle, and now he's just looking for a little bit more. I don't think he's going to find it. He may choose to do his Krugs here before he looks to reset, just so that that is cleared. But this does also mean, because Wei did a full clear, he's going to get back to base, going to get back out on the map sooner, and he's going to start making stuff happen.
Importantly, Kaiwing had leveled up Eclipse, the W on Leona second there, so didn't have her full stun combo, the Zenith Blade into Shield of Daybreak, which is probably why they were waiting for Kaiwing to hit level 3 before River knew he was entirely safe doing that Scuttle Crab. Do want to remind people of exactly how this game went down yesterday. PSG actually were able to take a very large lead in the early game, about 3,000 gold ahead. And at the 15-minute mark, they were well in control of it because they played through the bottom lane. And here comes River once again. Ming has flashed forward and he is dead. First blood goes over to PSG. TP coming in from Maple will not get them anymore. But you can see that was RNG trying to set up a play, and River was waiting.
Yeah, so that is just really great awareness from River, because remember that he did not do his Krugs. So after he did his clear from red up towards topside back to bot to get the Scuttle Crab, he then did his Krugs and was like, hang on, Wei has reset first and is likely going to be pathing towards a bot gank, especially with this wave pushing in. So I'm just going to stay here, make sure that my bot laner can push the wave in, and then in the event that a gank comes through, they can make the counter gank happen. Ming flashes in, and that was more than enough for River to be able to turn this play around. Look, he's just hovering, sitting behind, making sure that this wave can be pushed in safely, and then the flash comes through, and River is there to assist. Wei isn't able to make anything happen, and while the TP wasn't really necessary, you can see how prepared PSG were for that bot lane play. Excellent execution from River and the team.
Yeah, River really showing his prowess in the jungle so far. In the right place at the right time a couple of times over the last couple of days, and it's really paying off for PSG. We'll bring attention to River taking the Merc Treads here. Vedi, he's listening into the cast, obviously.
Oh, right, yes.
Following your sage advice from a literally not world champion. As he is able to just get that little bit of extra tankiness. Now with Cryin being level 6, you can see already starting just to sneak into darkness. And this is something good Twisted Fate players do so well, is you don't actually have to be in another lane to put the pressure in. You can just step into the river, step into that pocket of darkness, and the threat of the Destiny is enough to force the enemy to play safe.
So Ming here, also going to come mid, help Cryin get that push. And it's another situation like you're describing, moving into fog. Look at all these control wards that they've actually been able to set up. They've got a control ward up towards the top side. They have this control ward here as well. And basically all this control in the jungle for RNG so that they can keep tabs on where a river is, but also give the freedom for Cryin to look for any potential roams and plays elsewhere on the map. So really good control by RNG in response, even though they are at a little bit of an early deficit.
Yeah, only about 100 gold behind right now, so it hasn't been too impactful for them. You can see Xiaohu being able to survive this top lane, where Jayce early on can get some pressure down onto the Lee Sin. But with the Iron Will, the safeguard, you just heal up so much in Lee. And because, of course, you are not mana gated, you're only cooldown gated and a little bit of energy gated, it's so much easier for you to sustain through some of these harass-heavy lanes. PSG have decided that the bottom side river is under their control. They got the push in the bottom lane. They walk up here with river, and they will take the first dragon of the game.
Good stuff from PSG. I always get a little concerned when teams lock in things like a Jayce and then they just don't play around it. But I will say that with changes to his build and randomization, I think that he is a champion that still scales pretty well.
Yeah.
Especially once you have that tier fully stacked, combined with normally you'll see the Eclipse. So I think that it's okay if you don't funnel all your resources into it, because it used to be in the past that if your Jayce doesn't get ahead, then he's not ahead of his laner in
Pretty
top,
dunzo, yeah.
and he's not as useful. But remember that they're also drafting a little bit more of a poke comp when you have the Zoe and you also have the Jayce. A large part of your power comes from when setting up for objectives. You can use this damage as a fight.
Maple's on his way as well.
Oh yeah, Maple. That's the threat that I was looking at as a potential dive here. But they clear out the wave. They don't allow it to stack underneath the tower. And GALA and Ming will be alive for now. So yeah, when ideally you have a poke comp, you want to be in objectives first, so that when the enemy tries to face check you, you leverage your poke to chip out the enemy so that it's very difficult for them to approach. That's also why you kind of want poke comps to be ahead in the early game, and why you usually want to play through them, because if the poke doesn't do any damage, then the premise of your comp isn't really effective. So I think in a situation like this, though, where RNG actually have a lot of squishy members, as they all in Ming.
Solar Flare coming down onto Ming. The Equalizer will take the kill. River from long range secures that one in the bottom lane. That's the second time we have seen Ming fall on this Nautilus. PSG seem to have a very good strategy at shutting down Kai'Sa Nautilus lanes. We saw them do this against Mad Lions yesterday as well. Wei coming in here, the Destiny onto Hanabi as they look for the stun lock, and he's already flashed and he is down. RNG with their first kill of the game.
So I want to praise the bot lane of PSG for making such a good play, but I might have to hold it, as right now it is a 2 versus 3. Both supports are on their way. I feel like PSG can't afford to overstay here.
Ming yet to hit level 6, but he's got the Hex Flash, and here he goes. Hex Flash, hook, straight onto Kaiwing. The chase is on. Maple trying to do what he can with the damage here. Kaiwing down to half HP. River using the Flame Spitter to try and burn them down, but he just doesn't have the damage right now. Hanabi now TP's in. He's trying to get onto Ming, but he can't quite get there. Maple kills Wei. Cryin lands the stun card, but has to flash away. And PSG are willing to skirmish. The skirmish region, they are taking LPL to the cleaners in some of these fights.
All right, so I believe that ends up being a 1-for-2 overall in favor of RNG, but they should lose the Herald as a result.
Yeah, I got a bit excited saying PSG were winning all the fights.
PSG were buying time for Hanabi to be able to TP back into the lane, but initially, it was a mistake from Hanabi. He moved into an area of the map where he couldn't be. His team was not in a position to really support him. He ends up losing his flash, and then RNG, with the numbers advantage, tried to set up this objective. So kind of backtracking. Here you see Hanabi. He just walks into the river when he shouldn't. His team is moving up, so he thinks that he's going to be safe enough, but obviously the Cryin ultimate is what makes things difficult, and now they're just waiting. Xayah is also pathing up towards top, but this Hex Flash catches PSG off guard. As you can see, they're at a numbers disadvantage, while Leona can tank up a decent amount. Unfortunately, you can't tank up all 5 members. Then Hanabi TP's back in, and if he had been able to kill Ming here, then it would have actually been a pretty even trade, especially if PSG could have gotten themselves their Rift Herald. But unfortunately, because those RNG members were able to just barely get away, they're forced to reset, and they end up going down in kills, and they aren't quite able to get the Rift Herald. Of course, though, the good news is they do get a lot of summoner spells out from RNG. They're also able to funnel a lot of plates into Doggo. Of course, it did cost them that top tower as well. And hang on a second, the Rift Herald wasn't actually used.
No, Xiaohu just took that out.
Yeah, wow, okay. I did not appreciate how much work Xiaohu was actually doing in the top lane. He has really been styling on Hanabi as the flash in.
Flash hook onto Maple, doesn't have a flash of his own. There's the Equalizer into the Solar Flare, and the stun lock is beautiful. Away will go down. Ming now being chased out by River as well, but GALA turns it around. GALA did have to use the cleanse in that mid lane play, but importantly, the Rift Herald carrier died in that fight.
Kaiwing just makes Leona look so broken.
Man, he's so
He's
good.
so good, man. The response and the way in which he is always with River. If a play is happening, River and Kaiwing are together and they are there. The long-range combo of the Leona Solar Flare combined with the Rumble Equalizer, like, you don't appreciate it until you see it, but like, they're off screen and you're getting CC'd and burnt to death. It's just beautiful execution from the side of PSG, and they've clearly found a winning formula that is helping them gain momentum. Of course, they are still a little bit behind in gold. That's because of the early tower that RNG was able to take in the top lane, but they're ahead in kills, they're ahead in Drakes, the next one's spawning in about 15 seconds. What they now need to do is get Hanabi, as you can see, look at your minimap. Notice that he's already pathing towards, from base, immediately up towards mid. They're getting the push up towards bot, and their whole goal is to set up for this objective. There's no TP available on Xiaohu, which means that the ability to respond from RNG is not there. PSG going to be first on the objective, very clear on their win conditions. Let's just keep playing for these Drakes, keep having control, and if RNG come, we're happy to take that fight.
River's going to start it up, this bot lane tower, down to a single plate. 500 gold left, 500 health left on that, as Doggo continues just to be a split push AD carry, solo laning most of this game because River and Kaiwing have been teaming up for some of these skirmishes. Xiaohu left alone in the top lane to push in himself. He does have a 30 CS lead and of course had all 5 plates from that top tower, so he is miles ahead in terms of gold. But the rest of PSG have been able to find advantages on the rest of the map.
It's just going to make these fights that inevitably will happen all the more exciting, because our eyes are going to fall on Xiaohu. What is he able to do? And how can he impact the map on his Lee Sin, which has so much playmaking potential? RNG setting up the siege
Equalizer onto Cryin, tries to cleanse away, has the unsealed spellbook, so can switch over to that summoner. Rift Herald came down, didn't quite break the 4th plate, but I believe it may have just fallen afterwards.
No, it did.
Well, just
it has
surviving.
1,012 HP.
Aye, 12 HP is more than enough in these sorts of situations. Only 30 seconds left on those plates, of course, so I doubt RNG will be able to secure that final one. They get 5 in the top lane, 3 in the mid, and 1 down towards the bottom side, whereas PSG got 5 bot side, none in the top lane. I can't quite see, because GALA is standing on top of it, how many?
They got none in mid.
They got none in mid. So 5 plates to 9 plates. It's a slight gold lead for RNG.
Slight, ever so slight. And again, you can see at the top, it's pretty much dead even.
Yep.
So the difference is that PSG is getting so many kills as a trade-off, and also they are farming very well. They have slight advantages in mid. And in the jungle, I think, is also where a lot of those advantages are coming. So PSG staying even right now with RNG. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing up the gold. You can see Xiaohu really just leading the pack, and really, I think, is the kind of difference maker. Even though PSG have kind of had a lot of control in the early game, won out a lot of these skirmishes, Xiaohu's just been doing so much work in the top lane 1 versus 1, really shutting down Hanabi and doing a lot of work on these towers.
But yesterday when we saw these two teams played, it was Doggo in the end who came out as the carry as PSG. So I really think in these next couple of fights, yes, look for the equalizer. Yes, look for a good paddle star, but keep your eyes on Doggo. He had an exemplary performance against RNG yesterday. And here he is quietly farming up, has already finished his Gale Force 002 on the Xayah. So in team fights, a lot of pressure will be put on trying to kill him off. Zenith Blade's gonna land here. There's equalizer. Oh, it's so long range! You just assassinated! Someone's standing 5 kilometers away with a sniper and just headshots you.
I would love it if we can get, I'm not sure if we can, but I want to see if we can just get Wei's vision perspective in that situation, just to showcase how far away that range came from. Now PSG still looking for a fight.
Kaiwing's on the flank, the rest of PSG are chasing in. Ming tries to hook himself away. Flash picked up here by Maple. Doggo now! 1v3 on the back line, tries to go in. The stun card's gonna land, but Ming is down. PSG continuing to force fights against RNG.
The Xayah flank. It's the strat that you least expect, but it works out nicely. PSG, they get that initial pick onto Wei, they convert it into a bot lane fight, and once again, PSG, once they get a lead, they do not let go of it. Both of these teams wanted to draft this slightly more early game focused, skirmished heavy playmaking comps, and PSG are the team that's making it work. And so much credit has to be given to River and his pathing in the early game and how he was able to track what Wei was doing and his impact. And then the Kaiwing River duo is now really coming up clutch as you transition from the early into the mid game. That Leona Rumble combo is just so devastating, and PSG are making it work flawlessly. Excellent performance from them. The gold still, though, very even as it looks like PSG is setting up for the next Rift Herald.
16 minutes in, 400 gold between these two teams. Last time they played, it was a 3,000 gold lead for PSG right here, and they were able to take it home. But now, RNG have been able to get more plates, get more CS. We'll have another look at this from RNG's perspective.
So look, this is RNG Wei's vision. This is what he sees, okay? So he's getting a bit of vision. He sees Kaiwing, okay? He gets ulted, he gets E'd on, and then Equalizer, he just gets killed from nowhere!
Disgusting. Oh, Ming stepping too far forward here. The Solar Flare coming down, and Ming's dead before the fight even really begins. Feathers fly from Doggo. He's diving in with a Gale Force, trying to kill off GALA. Can't quite get the final order, and the Everfrost is short. Xiaohu will kill Doggo, but PSG have got 2 kills in this fight so far. And RNG once again a fourth back. Hanabi. Shot! Oh, it went wide! Hanabi, you failed me! That was so close!
Oh, unfortunate. I'm not sure if he had vision there. I would imagine that given he missed it, I'm going to say that. Oh, maybe he expected GALA.
He was doing the wanted. He's trying to bend the bullet.
No,
right?
I wonder if he expected GALA to cancel his base. So he was like thinking the next step, you know?
Yep.
In any case, he doesn't hit it. GALA's able to get away. But Doggo, man. This guy, he's just so aggressive. We talked about it, right? He's an up-and-coming talent over in the PCS. A lot of the region's fans are excited to see his development. But as a player, the difference between him and Unified is that he is way more aggressive, way more in your face, way more willing to make plays, whereas Unified was a little bit more controlled, very consistent, very reliable. And this aggressive style is now being enabled by PSG. And it's coming to fruition. Yes, he was a little over-aggressive there. Yes, he did die to Xiaohu, but I still love what we're seeing from this team. Now, the downside of that trade is it did cost them the Drake. PSG did have very good control, but they're going to trade it for this mid-tier 1. They still have control over the game. And the thing is, I feel like that this gold isn't really representative of the deficit that RNG is actually in, because all of the gold is sitting on Xiaohu's back pocket. But the fact that Doggo is so far ahead, the fact that River is so far ahead, I think it's just so much more meaningful in the current state of the game that if RNG ever try to fight, they will not be on equal footing.
You can see, I think Xiaohu was about 3,000 gold ahead of Hanabi, but all Hanabi has to do is hit a couple of shock blasts onto a Twisted Fate, onto a Kai'Sa, and he can do a huge amount of work. We're seeing first mythic items complete across the board now. Gore Drinker on the Lee Sin. Liandry's now finished on Wei, Everfrost, Kraken Slayer for RNG, whereas on the other side, the Gale Force from Doggo. Usually you'd say it's a defensive mythic. You will use it to dodge away from the enemy, but instead he's using it to dodge in to GALA and try and get that AD carry versus AD carry kill. River 502 on the Rumble has a fully stacked Dark Seal, and how much I would love to see that turned into a Death Note, a Medjai Soul Stealer for him. I doubt he'll do it, but it would be a little bit of a flex when you're playing up against the LPL champions.
He's been involved in 7 of the 8 kills. I think that if there was a game to get Medjai's, this is it.
Yep.
They seem to have RNG's number, and I just love what we're seeing from PSG, and just so much credit as well to this Xayah, Leona bot lane. Like we already commented, at Kaiwing just makes this Leona look so strong. But it's such a good matchup, and it's something that PSG is clearly so comfortable with in the bot side of the map, and in conjunction with the Rumble as well. Like, we thought it was a poke comp. Oh no, it's an assassination comp, Medic. That Leona ult comes from Fog of War, the Rumble ultimate, the Zoe Q, the Jayce Q, all this powerful long-range tools to just single out, get that execution onto a single target. Then the enemy team is playing from a numbers deficit. It's so difficult for RNG to deal with. They have moved away now into more of a side lane strategy. They're putting more resources into Xiaohu, trying to take down these towers. He did, of course, take that tier 2 down in bot. The top tier 2 is very low as well. And I think that moving forward, this is what RNG need to do. Try and have Cryin hover one of these side lanes, look for potential picks, try and tear apart PSG before they can set up around these objectives so that they can't leverage this long-range comp that they've drafted.
Of course, a very important game for both these teams. RNG, if they win, are through to the semi-finals. They will play up against one of the other teams that gets through, of course, on Friday and Saturday. PSG, if they win, guarantee themselves a tiebreaker, at least Vedius. They would only be able to get caught at 5 wins, but the fight now perhaps is going to start. Xiaohu has a good flank position, but Kaiwing's going to chase him off. The Rift Herald was used to take down that mid-tier 2, and PSG accepting just the tower for now. Maple, looking for the chasers, actually popped the ghost from the spellbook. Xiaohu has to be a bit careful because a Sleepy Trouble Bubble will force him back. Everfrost is going to get the slow. There's the paddle star, and look at Kaiwing once again, flanking all the way around. Dragon's Rage kick comes out, but Maple survives. Xiaohu dodges away, stopwatch. Oh, they started the Baron. RNG is starting up the Baron. They're looking for it. Xiaohu's going to get killed off here in the end, dodging around Vision as much as he can, but RNG actually back away from the Baron. I only saw it on the minimap. Instead, they just accept Vision towards this top side.
Well, Xiaohu even invested his flash into trying to get out of that situation. I think he wanted to try and trade 1-for-1, and he's hoping that Cryin could have... Oh, the TP collapse is now coming in. Cryin does have flash.
Maple's all on his lonesome for a little while here, but River does have the equalizer. We've seen how long range that can be. Depth charge used on Maple. He will just jump across the wall to safety.
So, not the best TP from Maple. He, of course, did have the flash from Xiaohu, though, so he didn't have to expend his own.
I don't think they had vision on the Baron, so perhaps they thought RNG could be doing the Baron with Wei and GALA there.
But I think they should have seen Cryin pushing in top wave.
Yeah.
So I think their goal, actually, was to collapse, thinking that they could, and then Ming was like, hello, crowd control.
Goodbye.
And the Maple was like, fair enough, have a nice day. So, of course, it did just cost him a TP. Zoe TP, not the worst thing in the world. It just makes it a little bit harder to match players like Cryin and Xiaohu on a side lane who both have their TP up and available. But I think that goes to show how difficult this position now is for RNG, because what they wanted to try and do was leverage the Twisted Fate to try and get advantages on a side lane. Primarily, if you can get advantages in bot lane especially, that would be great. But we saw one Cryin gank, which was onto Hanabi in the river. Outside of that, he hasn't really been able to find many successful flanks or collapses onto a side lane. The towers did, of course, fall very quickly. Xiaohu has been doing work in the 1v1, and once again, he's playing off in a side lane. He has the vision up on the top side, and like, that's kind of RNG's main strategy. They're not winning out on the 5v5, especially with the composition that PSG have. So instead, what they're going to do is just try and split apart the map, take away whatever objectives they can, and they're keeping the game very even as a result of this. But they will lose them the fourth straight of the game.
It is something they did very well against C9 as well. In that base race game, they said, well, we've started to lose team fights in the full 5v5. They got aced in the mid lane, and then they said, well, all we can do is put Xiaohu in a side lane. They pressured through that. They were able to get the in-hit. They got the TPs in as well, and ended up taking the game as Cloud9 were on the Baron. So RNG have shown that they know exactly how to execute this sort of style. Of course, a Lee Sin split pushing compared to a Lucian split pushing, you don't take towers quite as quickly as the Lucian would in that situation.
That's true. That is true.
Thanks. I do need the validation in my life from time to time.
Oh, hang on, engage here, flash out from Ming. Yeah, I was thinking about what my next segue point was. I was like, yeah, that's a great point, Medic. And then I was like, wait, what word do I want next? And so I just said, that's true again, twice. Okay, now Baron was the point that I wanted to get to, because PSG want to fight. They know they're stronger, they feel confident in their 5v5, so force Baron, and I love this.
No TP on Cryin, he's only got the Destiny. He's already popped it, he's looking to try and get in here as quickly as he can. Cryin will Destiny behind them, but that is, of course, that ultimate cooldown burnt for the moment.
I'm a little surprised that PSG didn't commit to that harder. Of course, there's always the risk of a steal from Wei, which you don't really want to put yourself in that position. No.
Xiaohu put to sleep, still doesn't have the flash. Kaiwing flashing forward, Everfrost coming out. Zenith Blade just a millimeter short. Grazed Xiaohu's backside, but he is able to escape with the safeguard.
That was a close one for Xiaohu, nearly losing his life there. Back to the Baron they go. Gain control over the topside jungle. You can see PSG's strategy. I love it. They are basically investing vision up towards the top side of the map, trying to deny as much as possible. So they need to clear out some of this vision in particular, but they have control over the river, which is the most important. Ironically, they haven't cleared out this particular rush, so all these recalls will be seen, but they need to reset, replenish their wards so they can come back out onto the map and be in a much better position for the next Baron contest.
Kaiwing might have to flash here. Hook goes a little bit wide. Doggo coming in. There's the sleep. Depth charge will be popped onto Doggo. Hasn't used the Featherstorm yet. Loading Lullaby now, though. Featherstorm used as the sleep goes down. Maple trying to get in from the side with the Dragon's Rage kick. Doggo still able to kill off Ming. Doggo is now dead, though. GALA dived onto the backline. Kaiwing trading back into this. And you can see PSG just trying to win this fight when they were at numbers disadvantage. Xiaohu down towards the bottom will get killed. The sleep's going to land on Cryin. And Hanabi is still on the chase. Paddle Star. Cryin will blast Cone across the wall, but PSG able to come up trumps when RNG were the ones who look for the fight. Hanabi flashes forward and lands that shock blast.
There are pings coming down onto the Baron, but I don't know if PSG is healthy enough. It looks like they're going to start it anyway. big team fight win for PSG that initially looked like a mistake from Kaiwing. The bot lane from PSG that has been so consistent, it seemed like that they overstepped and RNG tried to punish it. What RNG didn't realize though is that PSG was willing to fight. River now getting very low though, as RNG is in a prime position to actually answer this.
They have to back off.
That's a lot of time wasted. This could actually be an opportunity for RNG to force this one out. They do have the teleport on Xiaohu. GALA and Ming are already back on the map.
If Mabelback's in this bush, he does have teleport about to come off cooldown, and as you say, GALA and Ming coming off the, coming out of the fountain, getting onto the map, gave RNG a tiny window of opportunity, but Wei, of course, hadn't backed since the fight, so wanted to use this time to back away. This new Axe Effect replay will show us that fight once again.
So I understand why Doggo didn't use his ultimate on the initial knockup. He thinks he's fine, but he doesn't respect how easy it is for RNG to collapse. He still gets the kill, though. And he does a lot of damage in the team fight, even though he loses his life because Xiaohu was able to get in behind him and get that great kickoff. Now you see it's a 3 versus 3, but Cryin is so late to the fight. Xiaohu finds himself in a 2 versus 1, and then Cryin and Hanabi are left in this epic 1 versus 1 duel where it's more like a cat and mouse situation where the mouse wasn't quite able to escape.
Just got caught out by the final shock blast. That Blade Caller Gale Force Flash combination out of Doggo was sublime. Yep. Had a look back, he didn't actually play Xayah at all during the regular season over in the PCS. Has only started bringing it out here at MSI. Obviously, most AD carries very practiced in the Xayah, but to be able to face off against someone like GALA on his signature Kai'Sa and have such a strong performance is truly encouraging for the PCS region.
Confidence seems to be the name of the game for this team. When they have said in multiple interviews that they believe they can beat the best, and they're looking to prove it. Getting another win over RNG would be so big for this team, and really separate them out. You know, a lot of controversy around them versus Mad, especially in the group stage where Mad just kind of had their number. The score now sits at 3-1, you know, and even after their win against Mad, it's easy to write it off as, oh, it's just a level 1. Yep. You know, like they won the level 1, and like, while it was a good level 1, was it enough? But beating RNG a second time, you can't ignore that, right? Yep. That first RNG win isn't just a fluke anymore. Like, going 2-0 up against the tournament favorites is definitely an impressive performance, and that's all they've really had so far as we've progressed further and further into this tournament. The question is, can they close things out? The game is still very close in terms of gold. GALA is sitting on 3 completed items, and this Drake fight is going to be a big one. Look at Xiaohu. They know that he's around there, but look at Cryin in the bot lane. This is actually a 3 versus 4 right now. He is split pushing. He's creating a point of pressure.
Hanabi doesn't have TP. Xiaohu's looking for the flank here. Dragon secured by Wei. RNG get it and realize they do not have to fight this. Xiaohu does land the Sonic Wave. Cryin chased away here by Hanabi. Of course, Hanabi doesn't have the flash, and the gold card will stop him in his tracks for the moment. Xiaohu coming across. Flash! Sonic Wave was a little bit wide. Hanabi with some fancy feet to dodge to the side.
Good stuff from Hanabi, but let's look at the damage that RNG was able to inflict onto PSG here. They got the tier 3 in the bot lane. They stole away the Cloud Drake.
Hanabi doesn't have TP.
PSG is now going to force this one out. Xiaohu and Cryin both TPing into the top lane. Could this be the fight that results in demise for PSG?
Xiaohu has Dragon's Rage. Cryin, no Destiny, can't spot them out. PSG will just accept the double teleports and back away. However, now all of RNG are back on the map. They have an opportunity, once again, this window, when the enemy resets after starting a Baron, you can start it up yourself immediately and try and catch them off guard. RNG instead just accept the river control, and we'll continue to look for this mid lane tower. GALA dodges to the side of the Zenith Blade, flash forward into the hook. The Blade Caller's gonna catch out Ming, and Hanabi will go down in the end. Solar Flare on the back line, 1-for-1 trade so far, but it's a top laner dead on PSG for only the support on RNG.
RNG showcasing that they're not down and out yet. Good use of the double teleport to force PSG off of the Baron, but PSG is sitting there saying, well, we got both the teleports out. Here we go. Xiaohu goes in.
Kicks back Kaiwing, and GALA's on the chase. Pops a stopwatch as Xiaohu's going to continue just to force the rest of PSG away. GALA diving in with the killer instinct. Got so much damage now. Maple's shut down. Doggo has to try and survive. He kills off Cryin, but he is forfeit for it. And now River, the last man standing for PSG.
And immediately RNG answer back. After a good play around the 5th Drake, they're able to just answer, find pick after pick. That is 3 now dead on the side of PSG. The AD carry is still alive, and with this Lee Sin, they can tank up this Baron, and they can reclaim control over the game. Beautiful response from RNG.
Just incredible skirmishes and team fights from RNG. They take the gold lead, they take the Baron. They've secured the last 2 dragons as well, and you can see 3 items on GALA, he is very willing to dive in.
So this is so risky from GALA, initially. Getting that close to the Leona and sidestepping it was flawlessly done. Then Ming gets a huge ultimate, knocking multiple people up into the air, and they end up trading top laner for support. And then this is where we get to see some of the playmaking from Xiaohu. Zero vision on this bot side of the map. Control ward comes through. Xiaohu then makes the play, splitting up PSG once more. Maple tries to assist his support, but he then puts himself in a situation where Wei can get this huge ultimate off, where they're able to collapse. Excellent teamfight execution from RNG, and props to Doggo doing what he can to get something back. But as we said, it was just pick after pick after pick for RNG, and PSG were just kind of picked apart.
Some of these fights feel so scattered, but every player on RNG knows exactly what their job is. You saw Cryin working alongside GALA, Xiaohu, they were all playing off towards this bottom side, and Wei was like, I don't need to kill off Kaiwing. I can go in, get a 2-man sleep, and win us the rest of the fight, never mind this initial kill.
And now GALA is a whole item up on his opposition. He is 4 completed items, and that is 1 terrifying Kai'Sa.
Yep.
Level 16! Kai'Sa is level 16. Kai'Sa's a higher level than Hanabi is.
Yep.
That's not okay. Like, GALA at this point could basically 1v9 the game, and he's the most terrifying thing. Maybe earlier RNG felt like they couldn't win the 5v5, but I reckon they're feeling pretty confident right now, but they're not going to commit to it. They're going to keep playing the side lanes. I like this. Utilize your strong side laners in Cryin on the Twisted Fate and Xiaohu on the Lee Sin to create these points of pressure. PSG trying to answer in the mid lane so they can get back to base, but they're going to have to get back to base soon. Xiaohu hovering around that wave, trying to keep it Baron empowered. Cryin doing the same thing on the bot.
Well, Cryin doesn't have Baron, of course, because he died off, but this Red Bull Baron power play still got a minute on it here for RNG. Xiaohu, as you say, just buffing up that cannon minion. PSG, 4 men strong, defending mid. Cryin continuing just to dodge in and out of darkness down towards that bottom side. Hanabi is going to work his way down there to clear out the wave. And RNG will not be able to crack the inhibitor line for the moment. What have we got coming up, Vedius? 30 seconds on the Cloud Drake. Doggo has a stopwatch, but so does GALA. If either of them are caught out, they can delay the fight for a couple of seconds. And then the rest of their team can swarm and try and keep the AD carries alive, because you have to think the AD carry will be the focus for both these teams in this next fight.
I mean, what's crazy is that you don't have what I would say are traditional teamfight comps.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's not that front-to-back scaling mid-lane mage. There's not that long-range AD carry. There's not that engagey tank top. All your engage comes from the support. So you got to get pretty creative with how you play these fights, looking for flanks, making sure that your CC lands on just the right target, making sure that you have vision control so that you can kind of split apart your opposition, maybe break the fight out rather into a straight 5v5 into like 2v2s and 3v3s.
Yep.
Like, it's a great way to watch the game, because I feel like we're getting to see something very different as these two teams fight off against each other now. Hanabi is the target.
Hanabi flashes away. Xiaohu's going to flash in as well. The Everfrost coming out, but already Hanabi is dead. GALA dived in. He's stunned up. Kaiwing's trying to chase him up, but GALA will win that 1v1. Doggo forced away, has the GA. GALA gets a double. Now it's 3v5. PSG trying to stay alive. The feathers come back, but they do not get the damage that PSG were looking for. RNG still all 5 players up and available for another skirmish if it does break out.
And another really big pick for RNG. Notice this game, they've really tried to attack Hanabi. They've really tried to shut him down. Xiaohu did very well in the laning phase, but a lot of these fights are happening by primarily catching Hanabi out. In the last big fight, it was Ming flashing, hooking, and landing that huge dredge line onto the top laner of PSG. And now again, he's spotted out on this vision. And we talked about how vision control is so important. RNG are using it very well. Catching Hanabi out of position, turning it into a kill. And Xiaohu, he wanted to get in range to land the second half of his Q. He ward jumped, and then he's like, I'm still not in range. He flashed into then connecting the Q. And then thanks to the execute from GALA, they're able to get that big kill. Very well played from RNG. Now, no summoners on GALA could potentially be a big deal. We're going to have a look back at exactly how things played out. Just watch Xiaohu in this situation. Cryin does use his ultimate to close the gap, but he wards up over, and then he flashes in to get close enough. It's a good thing that GALA has the collector there, because that kick may very well have saved him. But as you identified in the fight as well, Medic, Kaiwing not going to win that 1v1 against GALA, especially not without any abilities left. Big cleanse coming out from GALA, getting a lot of value out of that summoner spell.
Yeah, he's been absolutely on point with the cleanses so far this game. Highest level in the game right now. As you say, level 17. 5 items complete. GA on him now as well. You gotta kill him twice if you can do it at all. Kaiwing looking for the solo player, only lands onto Ming, but the chase is on. Stopwatch popped, here's the TP coming in from Cryin as he tries to rejoin the fray. The sleep's gonna land, there's the equalizer as well, but Ming survives once again, and now the turn and burn is on. Xiaohu diving in, pulled back, the feathers will root him up for the moment, the sleep coming out, there it is, a 5-man somnolence there as RNG push in. There's nothing you can do. RNG are your nightmare, PSG, as they come out with a clean ace at the 36-minute mark.
5-0 in favor of RNG. Beautifully executed, and it looked like Ming was just dead. But he's able to buy so much time. The locket coming up clutch, the shielding from Xiaohu as well. Just beautifully played from RNG. Xiaohu, is he going to sacrifice his GA? He's not. He's still going to stay alive, and RNG are going to look to run it down mid and end the game and get the revenge against PSG.
You may be able to beat them once, but RNG will not go quietly. On the second time of asking, they defeat PSG.
Whew, what a great game.
Whew.
PSG with such great control in the early, attacking the bot lane once again, finding so many good advantages, but really a lot of credit has to go to Xiaohu. We kept talking about how even the gold was, and it was because of what he was doing in the side lane that gold was kept so close. And then when you got into these later game fights, it felt as though PSG were just being pulled apart. And I want to go back to that third Drake specifically. They kind of gave it up for free. They tried to make a play mid, and it allowed RNG to take it. And because they couldn't keep forcing fights around these Drakes, RNG could just keep playing through side lanes. And because of that and that big steal from Wei, it ended up being a much closer game. RNG had a little bit more time to play with, and they were able to come out on top with some just exquisite team fighting. Very close game between these two teams. PSG showcasing a lot of promising things, but RNG just showing why they are considered the favorites of this tournament.
RNG, of course, locking in their spot in the knockout stages as well with that win. What a performance from RNG, but make sure you stay tuned because we have more League of Legends and more MSI 2021 after the break. Oh.
Dear me, I just wanted to tell you that soon, everything you know will change. You're part of the breakout, part of an elite group of individuals that launched a global movement. The pioneers that changed the sole definition of a gamer. I'm you, from the future. And I just wanted to tell you that your future will be legendary. Exceed the game, unleash the future.
Smell irresistible. The new Axe effect.
Welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, where PSG were so close, yet so far. They are unable to beat RNG a second time after some masterful team fighting by RNG in the late game. Now, Lyric, you are very familiar with this team, and we've talked so much about RNG being able to set up for wins when they're not necessarily in a position to get the win. What were the elements that you saw from this game and how they played the macro leading up to those fights that spelled out to you that they had a chance in this game?
It was really nice to see because there was like a clear point in the mid game where you could see RNG realize like, hey, we're just gonna default to controlling sides, pushing into the enemy jungle to take vision and start looking for picks that way. We saw Xiaohu keeping the gold even by, you know, continuously pushing in that side lane as well. So I think the same signs that we've seen from RNG are here. Though I do want to say it's getting to be a bit of a worrying trend that RNG have to keep defaulting back to this.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their composition as a whole, Lee Sin and TF, they really want to get to side lanes. TF wants to snowball the Lee Sin, and I think that this TF pick was really important because it helps out the side lane when the enemy team in PSG only has one side lane in the Jayce, and this game was just a perfect example of how Chinese teams, LCK teams, Damwon and RNG especially, how they like to draft, just pure side laners, get advantages through sides. Even if they lose the fights, they're still getting gold leads.
Yeah, and a follow-up I think that is necessary is about the TF, because it's not a pick we see that has a lot of priority for other teams, namely because in lane it is really, really rough to pull off into most matchups. But it is a pick that works because of his kit perfectly for what RNG wants to do.
Yeah, TF's almost like a supportive kind of mid laner when he gets things like the Everfrost, the Rapid Fire. He's more there to set your team up. And when you pick a top matchup like Jayce into Lee Sin, and even in the LEC, we've seen things like Renekton, Camille. It's a very snowballing matchup, especially things like Jax, Camille, Renekton, Jayce come into the picture. And when you've got that top matchup, the last pick TF was just to assist that, to help Xiaohu get ahead, which he did. And although RNG kind of fell behind in kills, it felt like the gold was still going in their favor because the amount of side pressure they had. You saw, I think the perfect example in that game was PSG had their mid-tier one up, right?
Yeah.
But they actually lost bot and top tier too. So they had no towers in the side lane and they had all towers in the mid lane. You can just see perfect game from RNG in terms of playing over sides.
Yeah, Lyric, before we get to this, well, damning replay for PSG, where do you think they dropped the ball in terms of not snowballing their lead correctly and not covering their side lane, something they were able to do yesterday? Why couldn't they replicate that?
Well, I actually feel like PSG should have even just dropped their side lanes as a whole, because one good thing that PSG did this game was they picked up the first 2 dragons, which means RNG is on a bit of a timer if PSG can keep that dragon snowball rolling. But PSG defaulted and fell into RNG's game of like, hey, we're going to answer these side waves, we're going to take dangerous paths to our jungle and get picked off, to where I feel like when you get that much of an early advantage and then the dragon advantage as well, you can start looking to 5-man force Drakes or 5-man turn on to Baron and find those picks that they did yesterday.
And that's the importance of going up against side lane comps. You have to get early dragons to make sure that they can fight you on it, because then they're forced to fight, right? And you see teams like Mad Lions and Cloud9 draft scaling team fight. They drop the first few dragons and then they start to win the fights, and then they start to scale the dragons up, whereas the 1-3-1 and the side lane comp needs to secure early dragons to make sure they can avoid the fights, right? Whereas you saw this game, PSG picked them up and they should have overforced more in terms of pushing their advantages.
They should have, but as we look at this drive to victory presented by Mercedes-Benz, the final fight for RNG, we have to point out also how many things mechanically are on point by RNG in these fights.
Yeah, Ming took so much of the initial CC coming out of PSG, and then he lived on top of it. Leona ults used, the Zoe bubbles used, and then the Rumble ultimate. 3 huge spells, especially for the side of PSG. Lives with the Locket, lives with the W, and then the RNG just re-engage, right? You see GALA, the kick goes in, and then you can jump into the backline, and this sleep from Wei hits all 4 members which were alive on PSG, and from there you can just clean up.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just absolutely beautiful coming out from them. A big highlight to me this game as well is the fact that Xiaohu and GALA were so fearless, right? They were jumping in at every opportunity whenever they found a key target, just even slightly out of position. And again, great mechanical play from both of them typically let them able to get away from the play unscathed.
Yeah,
yes.
And the thing I love about these champions as well, like TF, Kai'Sa, Nautilus, Lee Sin, there's so much outplay potential, and you saw it in this game.
It's insane. I think we want to look at a lot of replays of that game, but we don't have enough time. I do want to pull up the draft once again, because I think it's going to be important in this next game from Mad versus Damwon as well. Caedrel, you wanted to talk about the difference in how Eastern teams like to draft and make possibilities for themselves compared to Western teams and who've been going more scaling or team fight oriented.
Yeah, Western teams that come to mind, obviously at this tournament, Mad Lions and Cloud9. You see things like the Wukong top still coming in, Humanoid playing Orianna, very team fight oriented, not so much punishing lanes. Whereas you look at the side of RNG, play Lee Sin top, Lucian top. They like to play things like Sylas, Zoe, TF, these mid laners that can get the push and start to contest early skirmishes. So there's a stark difference in playstyles. And this game, I think PSG is kind of playing a similar playstyle to Damwon and RNG. They're a little bit in between both, where they have a little bit of side lane and a lot of team fight too. But Cloud9 and Mad Lions relying way too much on team fight, I feel like. Things like the Malphite top getting punished, losing 2 towers and then falling behind. Yes, you'll win the fights if the enemy team makes mistakes. And if you can get an even gold lead going at 20 minutes, then you're more favored to win because of the Dragon Wing condition. But this is the difference between the East and the West. It's not like the East playstyle is better, it's just more of like a punishing thing if you fall behind.
We'll pick up this draft discussion after the break when we talk about Mad versus Damwon, but finally, nope, we're getting Oscar music out. RNG, they lock in the knockout stage as the first team. With this win, we'll take a quick break and we will be right back, I promise.
This could be the team fight that decides the game, but already Tristana is dead to a barrel chain. So Elder Dragon 4v5 is the team fight. Canyon at 1 hit. Buster's finally a kill for the Alistar, but Cloud9 are running out of health.
Damwon here are now tied with RNG in first place. That's why I get more concerned for Matt. It's 3 games worth of data that make me start clenching more than I was.
For the damage, it's a double kill over to Doggo, but Carzzy is resetting. Holy Carzzy, baby!
If Mad Lions pick up a win against Damwon, that helps Ming and C9.